Hello folks, Reginald Scott here. Welcome to the video. Thank you so much for clicking on it. I really do appreciate it and I hope you're all well. As always, if you could like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, I would really appreciate it. And don't forget, any comment that you make below in the comment section, I will endeavor to get back to you and regale you in conversation. So any points, comments, ideas you have, please do let me know. Remember, all information is useful to some extent, and you might know something that I don't. So please let me know about it. Now, today's video is all about action cameras and my experience over the last 10 years using action cameras on my bicycle for both daily commuting as a black box to record my rides for insurance and legal reasons, and more recently, I think, for use as entertainment or even for videos like this one, so for footage for my YouTube channel. Without further ado, let's go take a look at all the cameras that I have and the history behind them. Today we're going to go through all these action cameras and I'm going to tell you my experiences with them, what I found, what I liked, what I didn't like. Now, I'm not going to tell you what brand or model or make of camera you should go out and buy, simply because there's so many different types out there. The choice is overwhelming. I've only used a tiny proportion of cameras available. I might not know the best camera for you in your circumstances, and any recommendation I make today will probably be out of date by tomorrow. So all I can do is tell you what I found from my experiences and what I think you should look for in general, right? So I can't say go out and buy this brand, but what I can say maybe is look for a camera with this kind of video quality, or look for a camera with this kind of battery life, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Now, I think there are two different kinds of camera cyclists, okay? Maybe three at a push, but I'm going to categorize people into two separate groups. The first group I categorize myself in, which is the black box cyclist, right? So the cyclist that, like an aircraft, has a black box to record the flights and record disasters so that they can be analyzed at a later date. A black box cyclist is recording their rides, mostly commuting, so that if something happens, an incident happens, they have some level of safety because of the camera, perhaps legal recourse because of the evidence, and possibly even insurance as well. So, you know, they can prove to the insurance company what happened, who was at fault, and then maybe get something back from the incident. So that was the main reason why I personally started using a helmet camera many, many years ago. The other category of cyclist is either doing it for business or for pleasure, right? So they are people who have very different requirements. They're not recording their rides because they feel unsafe. They're not recording their rides for insurance purposes. They're recording their rides to get good clips, to get good footage for, you know, personal albums or posterity, or for social media clicks, or even for their business, right? So it's a very different thing that they would be looking for from a camera. And I would categorize this one, possibly this one, as being in that group. And you notice they're both GoPro style cameras, and we'll get onto that later. So this is the oldest one that I have. Bought it in a German supermarket in the UK, like a Lidl or an Aldi or something. It was very cheap, I think less than £20. And it's clearly made out of a torch housing or a flashlight housing. Very simple, screw top back, on and off switch, charging port, an SD card slot, and that's it. And then an on and off button or go button on the top, stop, record, press and hold, take photo, that kind of thing. Now, the reason why I like this kind of camera is for several reasons. Number one, they're very cheap. Okay, so if you just want a cheap camera to record your short commute to work in the morning, and to give you some level of safety or insurance, then this is a great camera to go for. It's easy to conceal, it's easy to hide, so the driver won't know that you have a camera, and I think that's actually quite important. There are two camps of people on this, I think. I am in the camp of I like to conceal the fact that I have a camera. I don't really want people to know about it if I can help it, especially if it's a commuting camera, because I want the driver to act naturally. And I want the driver to show me their real self, so that when I record them, they're not putting something on for the camera, right? Or they're not restraining their interaction with me because they think they're being recorded. This one is so small that you can actually shove it in the vents of your helmet. And it's almost impossible to see. And people just think it's a torch. They don't realize it's a camera at all. So that's a good aspect, in my opinion. It's also very robust. It's fully made of aluminium, basically, so extremely strong and sturdy. And these are very reliable as well, because they're very simple. There's not really much to go wrong with them. There's no fancy technology in here. It's just a camera. It's just a recording device. There's no Bluetooth. There's no Wi-Fi connectivity. Nothing. So very, very robust system. The disadvantage of a camera like this is very poor audio and very poor video. This is probably less than 720p. I don't know what the frame rate is, but it's not going to be good. This had very poor video footage, even in daylight. This is pre me having a YouTube channel. I never uploaded with this camera, but the footage from it was so abysmal that it wouldn't have even been worth watching. So I found that I needed something better than this. And so I decided to upgrade. And what I found with these Russian cameras, I believe they're Russian, everything's in Cyrillic on here. And these profess to be 1080p, which are these two here. I don't think they're 1080p. Again, the video footage of these was not particularly good, but they're very similar in design as this cheaper camera. These were also pretty cheap, to be honest with you. And so cheap, in fact, that I ended up buying two of them. They just have some basic switches. Again, charging port, again, SD slot, on and off buttons on the top, or mode buttons for between your camera and video recorder. Again, very robust, pretty reliable for digital storage and everything. Very simple and slightly better video quality. And if you go right back in my collection of videos on my channel, this is the first camera I ever used. And I used two in tandem, one at the rear and one at the front. Again, the front one I mounted on my helmet, and the rear one I mounted under my saddle, hanging off my seat post, to record the number plates of the vehicles coming up. Because what I noticed was with this, I wasn't capturing people's number plates, which kind of defeated the object of even having the camera. I found the rear camera was usually the camera that got the best shot of the vehicle and of the driver before they ended up doing something stupid. Now, I was knocked down in a hit-and-run incident many years ago. It was quite a brutal incident, and these were the cameras that I had on me at the time, and they did capture all the footage. Unfortunately, because they didn't get a clear picture of the driver's face, nothing was done by UK police. It's a whole terrible story, and I got nothing for it. But what I was aiming to do was have better coverage, front and rear camera. So if you are going to do this as a black box system, definitely consider where you mount the cameras. Definitely consider how good your view of the driver is. Do you need to mount the camera higher? Do you need to put some kind of polarized lens on the camera to get a better focus through the driver's windscreen, which was my issue in this camera incident. The reflection of the driver's windscreen was impossible for the camera to see through. And, how many cameras are going to use? Are you going to use one, two? Are you going to use a 360-degree camera? That kind of thing, right? So that was the upgrade. Now, apart from these failing to capture the driver's face, the other issue with these, again, was relatively poor battery life. I only got about an hour of usage out of these. And again, the video quality just wasn't quite good enough. I was still looking for something more. And the video quality for me, again, was simply just because I wanted more detail of the driver. I wanted more detail of the vehicle in order to feel safe. So what I ended up doing was buying these. And these are the Polaroid Cube. Funky, multicolored little cute cubey cameras made by Polaroid. Now I selected these again because they're small, they're concealable, they have magnets on them for mounting. I actually made my own mounts for these. They don't come with any mounts in the box, but I made a set of stamped sheet metal mounts. This one was for my helmet. You can see where I just passed the Velcro straps through. And with this, I'm able to stick the cameras in. The sides of the metal mount actually hold the camera in place, and then the magnet gives it a bit of extra stability, so there's no way it's actually coming out, but it's easy to remove when you want to. So it worked pretty well. These also have this little removable back. For this, you need a coin to open it. The back is actually magnetic as well, so it sticks to the base. And in here, you've got 720p, 1080p. The 720 I was using at night because it was a higher frame rate and I was getting better resolution at night. And the 1080 I was using in the daytime because it was, getting clearer pictures in daylight. Again, an SD slot. This one actually has a card in it. I think it's a really small card though, 16 gig, which back in the day was quite a lot, but nowadays is nothing. And a charging port. Now, these were definitely better video quality. That is one thing. They were very small and concealable, which was good. They definitely got me a better set of pictures to them. The issue with these cameras was several-fold. Number one, the screens would fog up in UK weather because it was very cold, and these cameras get incredibly warm while they're in use. I was getting a big problem with fogging on the lenses. So what I did is actually put plastic on them, which I cut from the Polaroid Cube box, from the tabs on the box. And I glued those on there with a little hole on one of the cameras for the audio, which is the actual microphone is inside the plastic, unfortunately. Terrible audio quality anyway. But this actually prevented the fogging issue, having this extra barrier here. It reduced the video quality a little bit, but it got rid of the fogging. So it's, it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. These are super easy to use, by the way. They're just a one-button click device. You press and hold to turn on, press to go, press to stop, press and hold to turn off. That's basically it. So better video quality, really concealable, easy to mount in some respects, but this professed to have a battery life of 90 minutes. Now, I liked that because prior to this, 60 minutes was all I had. And that wasn't enough anymore. I was now traveling longer distances. I was riding my bike more, and I needed more coverage for longer. So I saw 90 minutes as being a positive when I bought these cameras. However, I never got more than 70 minutes out of either of these because Polaroid lied about the performance of their cameras, giving them a 90-minute runtime when in fact they only run for 70 minutes. I contacted Polaroid about that via email and the helpline several times over the years, and they never got back to me. And that is because Polaroid customer service is terrible. They have a very low rating on their customer service. And also, these cameras constantly corrupted files. So very, very poor storage ability on these. They were constantly deleting files or corrupting files, so I was losing out on valuable footage. Then I ended up moving to Brunei, but before I came to Brunei, I actually invested some money in these, and these are my first drift cameras. I'll show you the box. These are Drift Stealth 2, and these cameras are actually very popular among motorcyclists, and I think there's some obvious reasons for that. And at the same time as I moved to Brunei, my wife also got this one, which I played around with. Now, I'll talk about that one in a minute. I'll start with the drifts. So the drifts, the reason why I went for these drifts is, again, they don't look like cameras to someone who doesn't know much about these kind of things. They don't look like what people recognize as an action camera, which is the GoPro style. They're very streamlined, way more streamlined than this brick, and I like that being a roadie. I was easily able to mount these to my helmet. They came with a series of attachments like this with these very simple clip system, and it's robust and easy to open. Nice big display for seeing what mode I'm in, seeing battery life, all that kind of thing on the side, which I found very helpful. Easy to use buttons and option menus. These were the most complicated cameras that I'd had up until this point. These ones boast like Wi-Fi and stuff like that. Wi-Fi enabled, HD. These are 1080p. These are 1080p as well, but these were just a bit better video quality. And the main selling point for me, and I think the main reason why motorcyclists like these cameras in particular, is 3-hour battery life. And there isn't any GoPro that's, as far as I'm aware, that's ever been made during this time period that has such a good battery life. 3 hours was really good. 3 hours meant that I could record a race beginning to end finish the 100-kilometer race or 110-kilometer race and get every single moment on camera. Now, it seems like this is the perfect camera. Unfortunately, there are problems. And the problems with these drifts is they are exceedingly unreliable. They shut down on you a lot. These ones in particular suffer very badly from heat. It wasn't a major problem in the UK, but when I came to Brunei, I would have one of these mounted to my helmet and one slung under my saddle at the back. And it's quite cool because they have a rotating sensor on them. So no matter which orientation you mount the camera in, you can just turn the sensor and it will shoot in the right orientation, which is cool. Nowadays, things have an automatic flipping function on them, which is done digitally, but this one back in the day, it was manual. You just turned the lens, which these cameras, you would have to use an app in order to get it to change on your PC. These ones, you couldn't do that at all. You had to mount them in the right direction. But very unreliable. I noticed that these would get very hot in Brunei weather, and as a result, both of these cameras ended up dying on me because the batteries got inflated. The lithium-ion batteries inside these cameras basically swelled up and nearly exploded because they got so hot. So I destroyed one camera after another by switching the seat one to my helmet after the helmet one died, and then both were dead within about a year and a bit. And then I had my really tragic I think it was 2017 incident that put me in hospital for the best part of a year, and I didn't capture that on video because both my cameras were dead. So, big problem there. These also shut off for no particular reason. They have real charging issues, like when you plug them in, sometimes they just don't charge. Oh, and connecting it to your computer is also a pain in the ass. Often it just doesn't want to transfer files, or it disconnects on you and you have to reconnect. So basically, Drift have built the perfect action camera, in my opinion, for the design and for the concept, which is an action camera that can go like 3 hours of recording in 1080p, which is marvelous. But the main issue is the software and the internals of the camera just are not to scratch. So I left action cameras for some time. I abandoned them for some time. And then eventually I felt like it was time to buy a new one. And I looked around and I was still trying to avoid buying a GoPro style camera because I really hate the design of these things. I hate how they look like a camera so much. And I hate how bulky, heavy, and unaerodynamic they are. So I ended up going back to Drift. And I thought, you know what? It's been years. I'm sure Drift has sorted out their problems. I'm sure things have gotten better. And ended up buying one of these, which is a Drift Ghost X, and very similar features to the previous generation, although they made the screen at the rear much smaller. The camera is a little bit bulkier, but it still uses the same mounting mechanism. It's still essentially a very similar camera look. It's still got the turning sensor on the top. This one has a flashing light on the top to let you know that it's working. But the major pull for me, again, of this camera was the battery life, and they have extended the battery life to 5 hours. So you've got all the mod cons, the HD 1080p, you've got the the water resistance that these cameras profess to have, and you've got a 5-hour battery life. And to me, that just made me decide to try Drift again. And it was a great camera for a while, but then the problems started again. Connectivity problems, charging problems. It wouldn't charge to the full 5 hours. The battery life decreased quite rapidly. This one has a removable battery on the exterior here, which you can actually upgrade to an 8-hour battery. Longest runtime of any camera on the market as far as I'm aware. But the internal battery, which is not really removable easily, that one failed or started to die because it wasn't getting charged properly. And again, connecting it to my PC to download the images and files was a real pain in the backside. Just wasn't easy to use. And it just started falling apart on me. And this one, although it professes to be water resistant or waterproof, certainly for rain, what I found is I mounted this one under my handlebar because I wanted to keep it out of the sun, to keep it cooler than right on my head where the sun is beating down on it. So I thought, I'll solve the problem that I had with these by mounting it in a different location. So I mounted it under my handlebar, because the one that was slung under my saddle lasted longer. So I realized it was a heat issue from the sun. That was all fine, well and good, except when it rained, as you can see, the speaker here and all the screw holes are on the underside of the camera. So when I underslung it, water would collect in all these gaps. And even though these were supposed to be sealed, over time with vibration and everything, I think the seals degraded and the camera started filling with water. I would come back from a wet ride and I would have steam in the back of the camera and steam inside the lens because water was getting in. And eventually that just basically made me give up on the camera. I couldn't charge it anymore. I was constantly having to open the camera up and screw the screws and put the camera in rice to get it to dry out. I gave up on the drift. So although, again, the concept of the camera, I love this concept of the camera. I love the design. I think it's a superior design to these things. I love the idea of a 5-hour battery life. That's incredible. I can ride all day long with this camera and record every single second of the ride. I love it. And the mounting system is great. Just generally, the camera is awesome. But it's let down by the fact that Drift clearly have cut corners or haven't invested in making the camera as good as it could possibly be. And that's a major disappointment because this was my last option for a proper black box style action camera. And what I ended up going with in the end was these kind of cameras. Now this one actually, like I say, my wife bought this for a holiday where we did some scuba diving and snorkeling, and a lot of action camera cyclists who are recording for YouTube and stuff use this kind of camera. This is a cheap Malaysian one called a Buffalo camera. What's amazing about this is you get tons of mounts that for cameras like this and cameras like this and cameras like this, you would have to pay extra for all of this stuff. This dirt cheap Buffalo camera from Malaysia or China or wherever it's from, which boasts 1080p. Again, the footage on this is not great, but it was super cheap. Has all the mounts you ever need and a proper waterproof case as well. So the disadvantage of this is you've got no sound because once it's in the waterproof case, that's it. You look like a Teletubby if you wear it on your head. It's incredibly bulky, heavy, incredibly unaerodynamic, makes you look like a complete dork. And yeah, although this does have removable and replaceable batteries as well, which is cool, again, the battery life is terrible. It's only an hour. So with all the GoPro style ones, yeah, the GoPro ones are better than this. Like the branded ones are better for battery life. I think for the GoPros, you can get nearly like 2 hours or something out of them now, or an hour and a half at least. But you're still having to pull over to change batteries if you want to keep recording. And the disadvantage there is if you're recording a bike race that's 3 hours long, there's no way you can pull over 3 times during a race to change your batteries. It's just not going to happen, and you're never going to win any races. Anyway, I searched around. I tried to find an alternative to the Drifts that did the same thing as the Drifts, that came with the long battery life of the Drifts, you know, that would give me a decent video quality, and I couldn't find anything. What I ended up looking at was the DJI cameras. I always call them DG, but it's DJI. This is the Action 3. They have actually come out with an Action 4 now, which is the latest model. But the differences between the 3 and the 4 are minuscule and nothing that would benefit me. There's no extended battery life. There's no significant improvement in video quality. I think there's a small improvement in audio quality, but minor. And there's a few like software additions that this camera doesn't have. But really, there's not much going on with the 4 that's not already going on with the 3. So I told my wife to get me a 3 because it was cheaper. And it basically did everything that I wanted it to do. Well, technically it doesn't, but you know, I decided to break a habit of a lifetime and go with a GoPro style camera. Now, what are the good things about this? This has got absolutely amazing video quality, even in 1080p. I've never used it in 4K because I don't need that level of detail, and I wouldn't even publish that level of detail at the moment on my channel. I think 1080p is enough. Also, uploading and downloading 4K videos takes forever, especially with my internet speed here in Brunei. So if I did everything in 4K, I wouldn't ever get to upload my video. It would be uploading all week. 1080p is bad enough. So although, you know, I'm only using 1080p, for me, the video footage is beautiful. Like, it's so, so nice. The quality of camera footage that you get from this, and the audio, the software and all the algorithms in here that cancel out wind noise are amazing. Like, it's so good. It's the best microphone and audio I've ever had on a camera. Problem with this camera setup is it's never quite right angle, because if I get lower, the lens drops. If I get higher, it points up, so I keep having to adjust it. It's okay right now. It comes in this sort of protective cage, which is quite nice, although it wouldn't do much to protect the lens, I think, if you did drop it. You know, there's some protection here. And it's fairly easy to use. It's got nice big screens on it, so you can review the footage. Here's the thing about these kind of cameras: you can play back the footage. So if you're talking to a police officer at the side of the road, you can show them the footage right away. You don't have to go home, download the footage. You know, maybe you get arrested and you end up in a prison cell and you can't prove that you're in the right because you can't get the footage off your camera till you get home to your laptop. With having a screen on the back, you can instantly show law enforcement what happened. So that is a good thing. As I say, the screen enables me to do all the changes and change all the settings or review the footage, check the camera angles. That is definitely an advantage. The issue with having all these screens, all this technology, for me, there's two big negatives. The one big negative is it reduces battery life. This one is one of the best, I think, on the market for battery life for a single unit action camera, and it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. So this wouldn't be enough for me, I think, from a bike race. Minimum is 3 hours for a bike race. Now, if I ride really, really quickly, I can do 100 kilometers in under 3 hours. But if it's a longer race than that, then, you know, I'm pretty much stuffed. You know, you really do need that 3 hour capacity. But for morning commute, if you commute for an hour or less than an hour, this is going to be absolutely perfect. And it's going to get you, again, really good footage. Again, I mean, I've gone over this several times, but I just don't like the shape and the style of these cameras. It's going to let every driver on the road know that you're using a camera. To mitigate the aerodynamic issues with this, I've actually opted to go for a chest mount. So I bought a cheap chest mount. This clamp is the only clamp you get with the camera. It's magnetic with a set of claws, and then I mount this on my chest. And it gets me lovely footage from that angle, but I have to wear this silly harness while I'm riding, which is, you know, it just makes you look stupid. But it means I don't have to mount it to my bike, so, you know, swings and roundabouts again. So, number one, poorer battery life. I think if this didn't have so many screens and so many options and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all that business, you'd probably be looking at 4 hours out of the battery life, you know, or at least 3 hours. But because of all the technology crammed in here, that is all using energy. When you put the SD card in, for example, there's a 128 SD card. A lot of that gigabyte of memory is used up by the operating system of the camera. It just immediately takes a load of space from the card in order to run its own operations, which is quite amazing, really. But the main thing I hate about this is when I got this camera, all these other cameras, they're just cameras. You turn them on, you press go, and you record something. With this camera, you turn it on, you press go, and it says you've got to download an app. So you download the app, and the app has got this big thing you've got to sign, you've got to agree to, the agreement, which is really intrusive into all your private information. Basically gives this company free reign over anything and everything on your phone. You basically sell your soul to the devil to be able to use the camera. And then after that, it sends you these intrusive surveys, which you have to go through when you're setting up the camera. And it asks you questions like how much money you make, what age you are, what sex you are. I'm like, I just want to use an action camera. I don't really think you as a company should be asking me this kind of information. Now, I know why they're asking me. They want to sell more product. They want to know their customers more. I get it. But I feel really violated by the fact that they want to have so much of my information, and my personal security is taken away from me by having to use a device like this that stores so much information about me. So I hate that aspect of these modern cameras as well. So if you don't want that spyware on your phone, and you don't want to feel like that you've got some, Secret Service operative monitoring everything that you do, maybe go for a dumber camera, a camera that doesn't have those kind of capabilities. The convenience of uploading, getting images off this is really simple. You just transfer it via a Wi-Fi network directly to your phone, and you can edit the clips before you transfer them. So if you've got a big heavy clip on here, you don't have to upload the whole clip. You can just upload a minute of it or 30 seconds of it onto your phone and then delete the clip from the camera, which is absolutely fantastic. So that is a wonderful thing about it. But like I say, you've got great camera quality, great audio, great convenience. You just sacrifice the battery life and your personal privacy in order to get that. So there you go. So very important, the two big takeaways from today's video is, what do you want to use your camera for? If you just want a black box, then these sort of things are probably better. If you want to record things for business, for making beautiful videos, for like being vegan cyclist or something on YouTube, you're going to need something like this with a good video quality. Oh, that's another reason why I've chest mounted this one, because on my chest, it's actually, when I lean forward on the bike, I'm actually shading the camera, so the camera doesn't get so hot. They said they've worked through the heating issues with their cameras on the Action 3, so that should be good as well. This thing's quality, reliability, and ease of use, this thing's battery life, this thing's design, like housing. If you could do that, I'd even go for this thing's housing. I'm happy with this thing. These things are very similar weight. This is slightly heavier. 5-hour battery life though. It just can't be beaten. 8 hours with the additional battery pack. So there you go. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. As always, I do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. And as always, folks, when you're out riding, whatever camera you're using, even if you're not using a camera at all, do please stay safe, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.